Labia Theatre in Cape Town is a real institution. In fact, if you ask anybody in Cape Town about it, they will have some type of a story about a happy time that they spent there. But the theatre is facing a difficult road ahead, and I'm joined in studio by the owner. Thank you very much, Ludi Kraus, for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, for our viewers who aren't from Cape Town, can you just explain what the theatre is?
Okay, Labia Theatre, it's a unique place. It combines the old world charm history and is now on the verge of going into the new as far as equipment's concerned. So it's really an art house cinema. There are 4 screens, and we show films of a commercially artistic nature. We also have film festivals, documentaries, special interest films, a lot of film-related events. So it's been around for quite a while. This is the 65th anniversary. It turned 65 in May this year. I've been there for 25 years, so I haven't been there from 1949. I started in 1989. So yes, it's a bit of an institution, bit of a culture shock. It's a lot of things, but it's mainly an art house cinema.
Now, like you mentioned, you really are transported back to a different time because you get your tickets stamped or when you walk into the door, and you sit in old movie chairs. It really is something different. And the way the theatre has functioned for the last 40 odd years, you said, or 60, sorry.
Well, it's 65 years, yeah.
65 years, has been on celluloid, on film. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, okay. The film didn't start in 1949. It's actually started, well, the Labia actually started life as a ballroom, so I'm told. The history is a little bit sketchy. It was apparently a ballroom to the building next door, which was the Italian embassy during the Second World War years. And in 1949, the ballroom must have been converted into a theatre. It was opened by Princess Labia as a place for the performing arts, hence the name. And it continued to be a theatre for quite some years. In about 1975, it started showing the odd film on the alternate circuit. And when I arrived there in 1989, I was more a film than a theatre person. It also didn't function well as a dual venue. And then from September 1989, we decided to concentrate on film. Yes, and it's been celluloid since 1989. The projectors have all been film projectors. I suppose the Labia has never been in a privileged position that we could buy new equipment. So it was always using old equipment. The one projector dates back to 1961. It was a projector my father had when he opened his cinema in Windhoek, where I grew up. When that cinema closed, I eventually kept it in storage. And in 1989, I installed it at the Labia. So the envelope was always there, and we had to fit the envelope. We didn't have the privilege of having a cinema designed. So it was one single venue in 1989, and then we added a screen 2, a screen 3, and screen 4, a terrace, liquor, coffee bar, and things like that, but always had to be fitted within a combined space. I think we've now used up every space. So we've continued quite happily showing celluloid. And, you know, having grown up with celluloid, I'm quite attached to celluloid. But the world is and has changed. The whole film cinema industry has already mainly and is in the process of, these are really the 11th hour of film, has changed from film to digital. It's like your camera which you used to have. You used to buy Kodak film or Agfa film, put it in. Well, now you can't get rolls of film anymore, so you have a digital camera. Similarly, they're not producing content on celluloid anymore, so all the old film projectors are obsolete and need to be replaced with digital projectors. That is now the current and new age. So instead of having a film on a reel, you now have a film on a hard drive. So the digital equipment comes at huge cost, and for small cinemas like ourselves, it's quite difficult to finance that. And friends of the Labia actually arranged with Thunder Fund, their crowdfunding, business to do a crowdfunding to help us to pay for the digital. So that's the present stage. So we're showing the last few forms, and have been showing the last few forms that have been available on form, but the laboratories aren't making forms anymore. And even if you manage to get an old form or so, you actually can't get components for the projectors anymore. A simple thing like a xenon lamp which gives light to the film and which lights up the film. Excuse me, they're not importing lamps anymore. They're not making lamps anymore. So when the last lamp goes, it's darkness and that's it. Or, you know, even splicing tape to splice the films together. So yes, it's a new era. I mean, South Africa is really largely digitalized because South Africa, as you know, is mainly run by, the cinemas are mainly run by Stekinico and New Metro. They were already digitalized by December last year. So we're 7 months behind at the moment, but, you know, we're on track and, you know, I've struggled through 25 years and we intend to continue. So, you know, there's no danger of that at least.
So tell us at the moment, what does the Labia Theatre need in terms of equipment to make the change from film to digital?
Yeah, so basically the film projectors now need to be replaced with digital projectors, and the current sound system needs to be replaced with a digital sound system. Digital sound consists of 6 tracks, so now you've got to have 3 amps with 2 tracks each. So it's different projectors, it's different sound system. In the case of a Labia, it's a very drastic transformational conversion because, as I say, we never had the advantage or privilege of buying new equipment. So the film equipment that we had was always used and old. So whereas the modern cinemas, your mall cinemas, went from the best of film to digital, which is not a huge leap because the best of film looked good and our digital looks good. So it was a small leap. For us, we're virtually coming from the dark ages. We're skipping the present and we're going into the future. So I think audiences will need to be strapped into their seats at the Labia because it's going to be a huge culture shock.
Right. Now, like I mentioned earlier, every Cape Townian almost has a story about the Labia Theatre. In my first week moving to Cape Town a couple of years ago, my friends bundled me in the car and took me to the Labia Theatre immediately because that's what Cape Townians need to experience. Okay. Now, those Cape Townians who have such love for the theatre have obviously clubbed together and are starting this Thunder Fund you mentioned.
Correct. So
how does the fund work and how can people get involved?
Okay. The fund will be launched this evening at the theatre. It's a crowdfunding fund like one has, say, in America and Europe, where people contribute an amount in return for rewards. So there are different categories of contributions and there are different rewards in terms of each category. It runs for 45 days. It's on the Thunder Fund website. Actually, Thunder Fund are using this evening also to introduce their new website. They've upgraded their website. So tonight will be the launch of the new Thunder Fund website, as also the start of our crowdfunding initiative. We have to raise at least 150,000 for it to kickstart, and we're trying to raise 2 million rand.
So where can I find more information, or how can I donate?
You would need to go to the Thunder Fund website.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.